serie di informazioni, a volte anche ripetendole per chi ovviamente è appena arrivato sulle tribune. Il mio obiettivo è quello di dare la massima informazione, per chi le ha già ascoltate le riascolterà. Dicevo, 296 Challenge debuttò quest'anno in occasione della prima gara al Mugello all'inizio marzo, dal 2 al 5 maggio, mi correggo. Con questa vettura Ferrari ha portato nel Challenge la tecnologia che poi è già applicata nella vettura stradale, quindi motore 6 cilindri, 2 cilindri in meno rispetto al 488 che, come sappiamo, votava il classico 296 ha un 6 cilindri, motore molto più compatto, molto più piccolo. Ricordiamo anche le Formula 1 montano motori con questo frazionamento. In questo caso, grazie a una ricerca tecnologica, un minor peso e a uno sviluppo particolare del propulsore, si è arrivati a superare di ben 30 cavalli la potenza della 488. Si è arrivati a questa soglia veramente molto importante di 700 cavalli. Per darvi un'idea di quanto è cresciuta la tecnologia in questi 30 anni, la prima Ferrari, quella 348 che ha...
Plenty going on just behind them as we head into turn number one. Something of a pinch point. Max Micheli trying to make a move early on. Very, very good start, I believe, as we go through turn number one right now. Pushes himself through into V2 because he's got the inside line. He's world champion, finale Mondiale champion. Hello everyone, welcome to our world final race for our Coppa Shell and 488 drivers. 30 minutes plus 1 lap awaits our drivers here at Imola. And wow, what an entire celebration of Ferrari this has been here at Imola, host of Finale Mondiale for 2024. And the Ferrari show this afternoon, which always forms part of Finale Mondiale, will set off from the city centre of Imola with a fantastic parade which will wind its way through the city. And wherever you are, you're welcome to line the streets and line the heroes, if you will, of Ferrari as they make their way to the Autodromo Enzo Attino Ferrari for the Ferrari show. That comes up a bit later this afternoon. Lots of people here ready to enjoy the action from the Shell and 488 World Final Race, which is the next race on the agenda. All the championships are done, dusted, and completed. Now, it is the final non-championship showdown, the Gold Roof Race, those that will become world champions in Ferrari Challenge, Coppa Shell, and 488. And alongside me, world champion in his own right, Nico Spellick.
Wow, I'm flattered. Thank you very much for being with us, as you are champions here, by watching us and watching the Ferrari Challenge, of course. This is the last hurrah for the 488 Challenge. Ivo, it's been an amazing car in the Challenge for so many years. But in Europe and in North America, it is going to be retired as the new 296 will be rolled out across all the regions, all the championships. Europe, North America, UK, Japan, and the new Australasia one. There is the 199 car. That's one of the 296s. That is Ernst Kirchmeier, and he is our pole setter. He is already champion. Previously has been champion in the World Final. He would like to do it again.
Of course. Of course. So we're just taking a look at the Pirelli tyres. We have had one race on the track, and I think it's fair to say, Nico, towards the end of the race, it was nip and tuck with regards to tyre choice as to who would go. Now, that car we can see is the Alexander Nussbaumer car, definitely running on the wet weather tyres. Some will be starting with the slick tyres. Towards the end of the race, Nico, when the wet weather tyres had gone through an entire evolution of 30 minutes plus 1 lap, there is no doubt that they were beginning to not perform as well as they did at the beginning of the race. So I'm just wondering whether there are some drivers that are going to take the gamble here and go on the slicks, like Jan Bernier, I would have suggested. So now Jan Bernier is going from P3. Now probably what would happen, Nico, if I know anything, which is not true, at the beginning of the race, those on wet weather tyres probably will have the advantage.
Of course, yes, and I think it's a very good call. As we see the grid line up, there seems to be one car missing at the middle of the pack, effectively. We will find out why and who that is. There is the Shark, Fons Skeltema. The Podium has eluded him this year, and from P6, this would be one that he would cherish and covet so much. Yeah, tire choice, obviously very, very tricky. You will struggle in one part of the race, one way or the other. Is it going to be the first one? Is it going to be the second one? And what will happen in between, and which will turn out to be the better one? It's always a little bit of a gamble, as we see the 1-2-2 car. That is Andreas Rizzi, who was on the podium yesterday.
He's on wets. This is Alexander Nussbaumer on wets.
Absolutely.
Thanks to our RF operators down there with the cameras, who very discreetly going into the wheel arches of as many cars as possible, just to let us know what tyre choice is, because the tyre choice is made literally at the very, very last moment. That's why you always see the tyre trolleys being taken out onto the track, because it is, and it's a combination, Nico, of driver choice. And there's Sean Doyle and John Dillon. John Dillon going from P2, Sean Doyle his driver coach. Final instructions being offered to John Dillon. And he's got a brilliant starting position, Nico, from P2 on the grid. He took P2 in the Shell Championship this year, richly deserved for John. And he has Ernst Kirkmeyer alongside him, Jan Bernier behind him, and Ray Acosta, who has had a stellar season, has Ray Acosta. He is the second best of the North America racers in terms of qualifying for this finale Mondiale, because Jan Bernier just besting him.
Fans from all over Europe, and certainly some fans here for the Scuderia Praha team, very loud and proud for their drivers. One driver who's arguably out of position, or not only arguably, out of position, Henri Hassid in P8. He is our European champion, and there in the background he was the 167 car with that orange and grey livery with some white thrown in for good measure. He was the quickest for most of the season in Europe. He's only down in P8. And that is a tall order to overtake 7 cars in a one race dash for cash. However, he went to the grass, he went to the moon, he went everywhere to make the overtakes happen. So it's going to be a big ask, but if there's one man to do it, you wouldn't argue against Henri Hassid being one candidate to make it happen. And there he is.
There he is. And the logo on the side of the car, which has mistaken me more than once, it looks like 112, and it's not that at all. Henri, good luck for the world final race. We also have our 488 Challenge drivers racing in this, the final hurrah for the 488 car. And it's Quinn Wietlisbach that will be going from pole position. And right alongside him, the all-yellow car of Sven Schirmer. It'll be Fabrizio Fontana behind him and Alexei Komarov behind him, Nico.
Yes, indeed, and the car that is missing there, right, is now coming into shot, where the tire trolley is just going through. That should be the Tibor Valent car. Tibor had it coming together yesterday and didn't finish the race, and maybe, apparently, the car is not in a state where he can take part in this race, which is which is very unfortunate.
Lots of guests and staff and family and well-wishers down there on the track, as well as former Ferrari Challenge drivers that we could see also. And there you can see all the cars lined up with that one space, as you say, for the missing Tibor Valent car. Front row of the grid. and the calm before the storm for this world final race. As I said, calm before the storm. It's dry at the moment. You can see one of the engineers down there in a t-shirt. One of the people we saw down on the grid who has raced in the 488s this season and is here as a spectator today and was down there on the grid was Joachim Olander. Welcome, Joachim. We miss you being in the car, friend.
Absolutely, but we've got 34 on this grid, 24 of the Shell, 10 of the 488s, or actually one less because of the missing Tibor Valent car. We're being reminded by that from that magnificent shot from on top.
I love this shot.
Absolutely.
We, of course, will bring you the grid in full when the cars are released on their formation lap. Always a rolling start in the Ferrari Challenge, and 30 minutes plus 1 lap await our drivers. And the Richard Mille safety car will leave the grid now. There you go. Oh, perfect. So, here comes the grid in full for you. Bear in mind, we have the 488 drivers with the blue strip across the top of the windscreen of their cars, and the Shell drivers with the yellow strip across the top of the windscreen of their cars. Gerardo Marino and Neil Sabranson go from P34 and 33. It's Tommy Lindroth and Pino Frascaro, P32 and P31 overall. Faisal Shayer and Maurizio Pittori, they're on the 15th row of the grid. To the 14th, where we find Alexei Komarov and our 488 Challenge champion Fabrizio Fontana. And then it's Sven Schirmer and Quinn Wittlersbach, P1 and P2 in class. They're on row 13. Osvaldo Gallo and Mitchell Green go from P24 and P23. That's the 12th row of the grid. Ahead of them are Lisa Clark and Christoph Ernie. Ahead of them are John Fiskup and Manuela Gosner, P20 and P19. And on to the 9th row of the grid, it's Thomas Gosner and Pierluigi Alessandri. P16 and P15 for Yasutaka Shirasaki and Bruce Cleveland. And then it's Tibor Valent, who is missing from the grid, but Corinna Gosner occupies her P13 place. Michael Martin and the North America Shell champion Eric Marston alongside him. Motohiko Isasaki and James Wyland go from P10 and P9. It's Henri Assid, our European Shell champion, from P8, Andreas Rizzi P7. Von Skeltemar and Alexander Nussbaum are both danger men from P6 and P5. Ray Acosta and Jan Bernier, keep your eyes on them, P4 and P3. But John Dillon goes from P2 and Ernst Kirkmeyer goes from pole position. 30 minutes plus 1 lap. Drying weather conditions. 34 cars on the track. This is going to be a thriller. Our European drivers, you'll see red on the graphics. North American drivers, you'll see blue on the graphics. So you can distinguish who is driving from what region of the world. And whoever takes the 1, 2, 3 in this, irrespective of where they have raced, whether it's been in North America or Europe, that is the position that they will take in the world final race, Nico.
Absolutely, and the same applies for the 488s. Quinn Wittlersbach, as you said, on pole, Sven Schirmer, Fabrizio Fontana. We will make sure we check them out because they have their own race. They have their own title up for grabs at the end of this race. Imola. The name itself evokes so many memories, so many things, but for now it's all that matters is between the white lines. Oh, and talking about white lines, there is Corinna Gosner off the track into the barriers.
Now, if she can rejoin...
Usually it's before the last car has passed the point, she can retake her position. But hopefully the most important thing, obviously she's, well, that's clear, but she hasn't, her car doesn't have sustained damage because that will obviously be very, very damaging. We will keep an eye on that, but the lead group is getting through the final turn.
I wonder if whether we will have another lap, perhaps, or whether they're happy that Corinna is back And at the back of the crocodile, somebody else that's gone around is I think that was
Lisa Clark, possibly?
I think it was the Lisa Clark car, maybe on slick weather tyres. Well, the start is going ahead, Nico, it would appear. So John Dillon, Ernst Kirkmeyer then crawling towards the line. This is our Coppa Shell and 488 finale Mondiale race. Front row, Ernst Kirkmeyer, John Dillon, then it's Jan Bernier and Ray Acosta. So the cars seem pedestrian-like slow as they head towards the lighting gantry. They all have to pass through their grid boxes. Who, at the end of this race, will become world champion for 2024. The lights are at the top of the screen. The lights go out. Let's go racing. Some drivers are on wet tyres. Some drivers are on slick tyres. And Henri Acid is on a rocket. All the way through he goes right at the start of this race. What a start. Ray Acosta looking very lively as well. And he gets by. And off into the gravel goes von Skeltermar. So he can keep the momentum. He might be able to get the car going again and get it back out on track, which would prevent us having to have a safety car. But two extraordinary starts, Nico, from Henri Acid and from Ray Acosta.
Absolutely amazing. I mean, to the point where you feel like, oh, it's John Dillon, a little bit of a sideways moment, and maybe he was lucky that there was a little bit of a touch with another car which stopped the momentum of the car spinning.
Maybe.
We will surely see that again later in the restart of the race, but Henri Acid from nowhere effectively all the way into the lead, and now Ray Acosta, he is keeping with Henri Acid after initially it looked like he would be up the road immediately.
We think there is a mix of tyres that are being used by drivers here, so those that are probably on the slick tyres are going to really struggle at the beginning of the race, but it will come good for them in the second part of the race, potentially. It's a question of trying to keep the car on the track in these very difficult conditions for those drivers, dependent upon what their tyre choice has been. As a real challenge going on for the lead of the race right now. As down the hill they come then, and look at this.
I mean, Andreas Rizzi certainly on wet tires. Ernst Kirchmeier looks like he's more on slicks, and therefore he's struggling in through the turns. Same for John Dillon, and you can see those who are really rocketing up the order. You would guess those are the one on wet tires. Henri Acid, we know. Alexander Nussbaumer, we know. Ray Acosta, we are fairly sure that he's on wet tires. Didn't always work with the slick tires, but we will see over the rest of the race. There is Corinna Gosner into the pit lane.
You can see those that are on the slick tyres, Nico, they're really, really struggling, aren't they? As a round has gone, Alexander Nussbaumer, I think that is. Bruce Cleveland takes avoiding action, so do all the other drivers. Alexander Nussbaumer tries to get the car out of harm's way. Let's ride on board with John Dillon, who we're almost convinced is on slicks. He's down to P7 now from a front row start. Bearing in mind, those drivers on the wet weather tyres would have the advantage at the beginning of the race. Every driver that has chosen to go on the slick tyres will be hoping that it will come to them in the second half of the race. But Henri Acid leading by 2.2 seconds. What he needs to do is build the biggest margin that he possibly can before those wet weather tyres go off, potentially. And that's precisely what he's doing. He's being chased by Ray Acosta, who is running P2 at the moment. Alexander Nussbaumer gets his car pointing back in the right direction again. We stay on board with John Dillon running in P7. Ahead of him is Ernst Kirkmeyer, who we also think is on those tyres because he's dropped down to P6 from his front row start. But that is our race leader, Henri Acid.
Yes, and he has taken the racing line, which is dry, which is a little bit, well, you would think that on the wet weather tires he might pick out the wet patches of the track, but for the moment at least, no such thing. He will hope that there is no safety car intervention, because obviously that will bring all the gaps back down and allow those on the wet wire, on the slicks, to just roll with the pace while the track is dry. So Henri Acid up the road, 3.6 seconds at the last intervals, 3.7 as they cross the timing line.
Jan Bernier is dropping way down the order. Quinn Wittlisbach is leading the 488 challenge race ahead of Fabrizio Fontana and Pino Frascaro up to P3. So 2 races in one here as we bring you double the value in the Ferrari challenge, because we have our 296 drivers in the Shell category, and we have also the 488 Challenge drivers too. So here, Ernst Kirkmeyer and John Dillon then, P1 and P2, right at the start of the race, and they stay absolutely locked together here. Sean Doyle is John Dillon's driver coach, talking to him on the team radio right now, advising him how to nurse this car at the beginning of this race. We're still into the first 5 minutes of this race. And as the track conditions come, Pierluigi Alessandri taking a look at the inside. There's Bruce Cleveland, and there is the 479 car, the Ferrari of Westlake driver Mitchell Green.
Yeah, indeed. The quickest driver on the track currently, Andreas Rizzi, running in P4, was 2 seconds quicker than anybody else the last time around. He running in P4, closing the gap to the drivers in front of him. But we look at this battle. 4 drivers, Pierluigi Alessandri really quick, but some misfortune over the week thus far. He would so dearly love to get a good result.
You can see through that turn there, the low part of the circuit, how that dry line is really beginning to evolve now. There's Bruce Cleveland, North American competitor and very, very good driver is Bruce Cleveland. And let's get a replay of the start then. Henri Acide, he just dived to the outside and like a fast thing. Look at this. Watch the car from the 4th row of the grid. Absolutely went around the entire pack of cars, Nico, like they were stood still.
Absolutely, and well, it will be interesting across the rest of the race if that was the right strategy, as now we've got a few drivers who are coming good in terms of lap times, but certainly for him to get to the very front of the race, that was certainly the right choice in terms of being on the wets. And there is von Skeltma, really, really not a lucky season for him.
So was he given an assist into that? Just a little touch there. Was there another touch? Not sure. Difficult to tell from that angle, Nico.
Yeah, difficult to tell. Would be an odd angle to just veer off the track, but you never know with the tire choices and the wet. Unclear. There is Ernst Kirchmeier. There is John Dillon. There is Pierluigi Alessandri. Bruce Cleveland.
Yeah, it's a 4-way fight that's going on at the moment for P6. Up ahead of them is James Wyland. And yeah, this 4-way fight involves Ernst Kirchmeier, John Dillon, Pierluigi Alessandri, and also Bruce Cleveland. Alexei Komarov then is one of our 488 racers for the Scuderia Prague team, who carried too much speed going into the Ravazza 2 turn. Surely if he's not able to recover that car from there, but it looked like he got it moving again, Nico, so hopefully no safety car intervention.
No, that's exactly the spot. There are no yellow flags being waved, so the car must be out of the gravel there.
What a great drive from Yasutaka Shirazaki, Nico, who's up to P2. And Ray Acosta and Andreas Rizzi running P3 and P4. They're ahead of James Wyland, Ernst Kirchmeier and John Dillon. Henri Acide with 6.3 seconds to the good now. They're the 407 car of Ray Acosta driving for the collection Ferrari of Miami. And Yasutaka Shirazaki is absolutely sliding that car through every turn, and is a joy for us to watch here in the all-blue number 140 car running in P2. Henri Acide, 6.2 seconds up the road from him.
Yeah, and here are the two...
Alessandro Pierluigi's had an off, Nico, I think. I can see him dropping down the order. He was very much involved in that 4-way fight a few moments ago.
Yes, true, and we haven't seen him cross the timing line as everybody else is going past, so that would lend itself to believe that maybe it was in the Ravazza turns, if that is accurate. So we will keep an eye on that. We'll keep an eye on the screen, of course, as well. There is a replay coming up, and that is probably where it happened. And yeah, dives in too late, and
that was a dive bomb, wasn't it?
Yeah, just missed the breaking point there. John Dillon again this weekend, really unfortunate with drivers looking to make contact with him. Not really, but and let's see if there is any more touch at the end of that. No. So Henri Acide, he is leading. Last time around he was the quickest of the lot, so his lead, which is currently 6.8 seconds, currently looks good. John Dillon on this lap, however, he is pushing, and 2 overall best sectors. So with 23 seconds behind, is this the point where the trajectory changes?
So is this when the slick tyres then come into their own? Is this the cusp that we talk about? Well, we will wait and see. There is Quinn Wittlisbach and Fabrizio Fontana, absolutely together here in the 488 Challenge race. Now, bear in mind, Quinn Wittlisbach, a race winner. Fabrizio Fontana, championship winner. He would love to crown this 2024 season with the world final title as well. He's got the young whippersnapper that is Quinn Wittlisbach ahead of him. As dropping down the order. Now, we have had transponder issues over the course of this weekend, and that's the signal that is sent from the car to race control. So we're always a tad cautious in terms of what we say as to who is doing what, as Ernst Kirchmayr now sets the fastest lap, and Ernst Kirchmayr is another driver that we believe is on those slick tyres, Nico.
Yes, indeed, and just to finish this battle, this is the lead, obviously, for the 488, so there is a World Championship title attached to whatever happens, and Fabrizio Fontana on the inside, has the racing line, but it's the outside line for the next one. They touch Fabrizio Fontana onto the gravel. That was tough racing, but I think it was just within the limits of what's fair.
Yes, I would agree with that. I would agree with that. So, as Quinn Wittlisbach can breathe a sigh of relief for a moment, Fabrizio Fontana will continue chasing him.
And John Dillon, indeed, that seems to have been a transponder issue. He actually set the fastest lap of the race, 2 seconds quicker than our leader, Henri Hassid. So, this 19 minutes plus a lap. This is going to be very, very interesting.
So this is when the slick tyres then will work. However, for the likes of John Dillon and Ernst Kirchmayr, they've got quite a lot of cars to overtake to get on terms with Henri Hassid and Yutaka Shirasaki. However, still got 18.5 minutes plus a lap. And Fabrizio Fontana undoubtedly will have another go at Quinn Wittlisbach in this 488 Challenge race at some point. Where he will pick his moment, remains to be seen. But there was certainly a little rub between the two of them, but rubbing is racing, and I think that could be put down to a racing incident. Andreas Rizzi now is chasing down Ray Acosta, Nico. See, the thing is, not only will the slick tyres come into their own, but of course the wet weather tyres will become really difficult to manage for the drivers also.
Yes, absolutely. Thus far, we didn't have any track limit warnings, but that can come into play once the tires are not performing up to their best, because they're not best suited. And there is the attack on the inside. That is Andreas Rizzi on Ray Acosta, and he's gone through. Very, very good opportunistic driving there, and that is maybe just something to do with the tires, and that's going to be interesting. Can Andreas Rizzi now go up the road? Can he go and chase behind Henri Hassid, because Yasutaka Shirizaki shown as having dropped, but again, I think we just saw the black car go through shot, and I think it should be here, and yes, indeed. So he is still P2. That means forget the rankings on the left side. It is actually Rizzi P3, Acosta P4, but you can see the gap has already stretched.
Absolutely, and it just proves the dominance when you're on the right rubber at the right moment. 17 minutes remaining plus a lap in this Ferrari Challenge. Coppa Shell and 488 finale Mondiale race, where tyre choice may prove to be absolutely pivotal. In the meantime, Henri Hassid has built up a huge margin, and that's what he needed to do. One is assuming that he's running on those wet weather tyres, and if that gap becomes unassailable, then he will be in a gun place. But his last lap was a 1:51.270, Nico. Compare that to Ernst Kirchmayr of a 1:47.982. You can see how much quicker now the slick tyres are.
Absolutely, almost 4 seconds of a gap, 3.3 seconds, and with 17.5 seconds of a gap, that's not going to work out for Henri Hassid, assuming all stays the same. A safety car obviously would throw all that out the window.
Absolutely.
So every element, every driver now really, really pivotal in how this race unfolds. There again is the battle in the 488s, and there is John Dillon on the inside, on the outside of, I believe, James Wyland.
And there you can see the superior grip that is available means that with all the experience James Wyland has, is he going to be able to hold John Dillon at bay here? James trying to make his 296 challenge car as wide as he can. It's his right to defend his track position, but he's defending his track position, and you can see, oh, as John has got onto the grass. Oh, goodness me. And that is a nightmare for John. You could just see how he got onto the grass. And Sean Doyle on the radio to his driver in the 151 car. He was going for an overtake on the Ernst Kirkmayer car. That brings out the safety car. And that changes the face of this race, Nico.
It changes it entirely because obviously all the gaps will be gone. The slicks will still be quicker afterwards, but let's focus on what happened here.
He just caught the grass, Nico. It was there. Well, we await confirmation that John is perfectly okay, which is the most important thing. Safety car is called for. Now this is just what Henri Assis did not want. John is out of the car and he's perfectly okay. That is the most important thing. He was going for an overtake on James Wyland, just caught the grass, and that was enough to spit the car out, Nico.
Yeah, and because it's on the straight, the barrier is quite close. If it had been in one of the corners, he would have possibly avoided impact and maybe have a chance to get back onto the track, but the wall really close on that straight part. Fortunately, not too bad an angle in which he hit the wall, so obviously the car really suffered there, and obviously his race out the window. And yeah, the ramifications for the race win overall significant. As we already said before, as there is Christoph Hörny coming into pit lane, so apparently he also with an issue.
Yeah, looks like it.
And just to remind you, this is not the Formula One where you can change the tire and the wheels in a couple of seconds under the safety car, even though maybe that's what the team will do. But certainly it's not a 3 or 4 seconds affair. That's just not how this series is designed to work.
I can see from my window that I think that's precisely what Pino Frascaro is going to do. There are a number of teams, Nico, I can tell from looking out of the window. I appreciate you can't see this on the screen. Now you can. Christoph Hörny, one of those. They're using the safety car intervention to put slick tyres on. Now, of course, when these cars rejoin, it's theoretical that they will be able to get onto the back of the Crocodile, but with the superior rubber that they've got, Nico, with still a reasonable portion of the race to run, they'll be able to make at least some headway by being on the right tyres.
Yeah, the rationale here is to be effectively beat out those who are on the wets. I think that the other ones on the wets who stay out, because obviously you have a better rubber against those. For those who started on slicks, obviously they're behind them at the end of this pit stop, so nothing doing in that regard. With 12.5 minutes remaining, the drivers who are behind the safety car are now slowly going through the third sector and approaching the timing line. So it's going to be at least one more lap behind the safety car, possibly 2, we think.
Yes, the recovery teams here at Imola have worked so steadfastly well all week long, and they've had plenty of work to do, to be fair to them, in very challenging weather conditions. But they have done a brilliant job, and they've been about it very quickly. So yes, it's not going to be an elongated period of time, but this, Nico, really has changed the shape of this race, because those drivers like Henri Assis, who we think are on the wet weather tyres, if Henri Assis, Nico, is leading this race and having done what he's done, and the start that he couldn't have made that start on slicks.
No, and we did see it, I think, if I remember correctly, it was so many tyres that we saw, but I think we saw him being on wets. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, but the dynamic of the race certainly lends itself, as we see James Wyland, also one of those who's now come into the pits, and there is proof of what the timing screen tells us, and the wets coming off, the slicks coming on to the James Wyland car. Obviously, in a one-race dash for glory, you don't want to be caught out on the wrong tyre.
No.
But you never know. And on Thursday, we saw what can happen if you stay on wets, and it proves to be the right decision, because there Henri Assis actually overtook No, sorry, it was in the Shell AM class where the pole setter actually overtook the driver who started alongside and had made the slick choice. So it's always a gamble.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. We will see what happens. So I'm thinking that probably this will be the last lap behind the safety car before we go back to racing again. Henri Assi leading from Yasutaka Shirasaki and Andreas Rizzi. Then it turns Kirkmeyer, Ray Acosta and Eric Marston, who is up to P6 now. He is the Coppa Shell champion in North America. Coppa Shell champion in Europe, of course, is leading this race, Henri Assi. Now, there was quite a battle going on in the 488 race as well between Quinn Wiedlisbach and that car just going through, which is Fabrizio Fontana.
And there is an interesting dynamic after the safety car, because there are a number of Shell drivers behind those. And obviously, the 296 is a much quicker car in any condition. So we expect the likes of Manuela Gostner and Fons Geltemer, we just see go through shot, as well as those behind, to move past the 488 drivers. And that could just as well play a part in how that battle unfolds.
I agree with you. A reminder that the color codes on the left-hand side of your screen, European drivers are colored red and our North American drivers are colored blue. The best of those is Ray Acosta with Eric Marston and Bruce Cleveland and Mitchell Green and John Fiskup all together there. 5 of our North American drivers running in P5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. In this 4, 8, 8 and Coppa Shell race, which we have just under 9¼ minutes plus a lap to run. We are behind the safety car for the stricken John Dillon car, which, while going for an overtake, just caught the grass and found the barriers.
Yeah, and it's going to be one more lap at least, because we're in that final sector,
right.
And they generally throw out the indication that the safety car is coming in before they reach that second sector line. So it's going to be one more, which means there's only going to be like 4 minutes or plus a lap remaining. But, you know, with a tire difference, it looks like cars have picked up speed, but in reality we have no indication of the safety car coming in.
Did look like Henri Assi was really going for it, didn't it? But you're right.
Well, but I think they're not quite at that speed, but maybe the safety car has started to pick up some speed and anticipation.
For Henri Assi, the longer the safety car is out, the better.
Of course, of course.
So we get confirmation as we're looking at the highlights that we've seen of this race so far that the safety car is coming in at the conclusion of this lap. The John Dillon car has been recovered. Some of the debris that's out there on the track is being looked at and dealt with by the marshals. So Henri Acide, Nico, is going to have, well, by the time the safety car gets in, you know, it's going to be very few minutes plus one lap of racing left to do. So Henri Acide, he will back him up, and then he'll be very clever again on this restart.
Yeah, he generally has gone very early. Now it's in his interest to keep it as low as possible, as long as possible. So let's see. And we've seen this before, cars actually colliding before the restart, because Henri Acide really slowed everybody down. So and I think he's gone.
He does appear to have gone for it.
Well, there we go, 5 minutes plus a lap.
That's what we're going to have left in this Coppa Shell and 488 Finale Mondiale race. Here comes our race leader, Henri Acide, who we believe is on the wet weather tyre. Lots and lots of drivers are on the slick tyres, and it's whether in the short time available they can get on terms with Henri Acide. It's going to be a big ask, in my opinion. But let's see how they run and how they roll. Henri Acide from Yasutaka Shirasaki, then it's Andreas Rizzi P3, then it's Ernst Kirkmeyer, who we know is on slicks.
Yeah, we also think that Andreas Rizzi is on slicks because he really accelerated over the second part before the safety car. So let's see, and there already he is putting pressure on Shirazaki, trying the inside, going on the outside now, possibly trying for the switchback up the hill. Not quite there, runs very wide, but that means he lakes a lot of momentum up to the next part of the track. And there is Ernst Kirchmeier, who you can see he's gapped those behind him quite significantly. Yeah,
Kirchmeier is on a roll now, isn't he? But whilst all this is going on, Henri Acide is stretching his legs and building that margin between himself and Yasutaka Shirazaki, who's running in P2. So behind them, Eric Marston has got by Ray Acosta. So Eric Marston presumably on the slicks as well. Shell champion from North America. And there is Andreas Rizzi, who's certainly not been able to find a way by. Here comes Eric Marston, here comes Ray Acosta. Then it is Bruce Cleveland running P7, Mitchell Green, then John Visca. Motohiko Isasaki is running in P10. So we keep our eyes on the lap times as wide goes Yasutaka Shirasaki. That plays into the hands of Andreas Rizzi, and also potentially to Ernst Kirkmeyer as well, and maybe also even Eric Marston. Here they go then. You can see that Yasutaka is trying to defend the inside line here, but he will not be able to carry as much speed as he makes contact with Ernst Kirkmeyer, and then ahead of the chicane, loses the back end of the car and is into the barriers. That for sure will be a safety car. The front end of the 140 car is really reshaped. So red flag, and I'm not surprised by that, Nico, because there's no coming back from that in terms of the safety car. So the race is done, and Henri Acide for the Coppa Shell drivers P1, and for the 488 drivers Quinn Wiedlisbach P1. But of course we just hope that Yasutaka Shirasaki is okay. The integral safety of the 296 Challenge car is extraordinary, but yeah, Yasutaka then it was one side, then the other side, Nico. Big incident then on the restart of the race following that safety car. And he was in a battle there with, I think it was with Ernst Kirkmeyer, wasn't it? And look at that. He's perfectly okay, out of the car. That is the most important thing. Various bits of 296 Challenge car now being picked up by the marshalling team. And here we can see it again. I mean, in fairness, he touched Ernst.
Yeah, just a little bit of a side touch side to side, and it's just when they're going through that little kink and they're so light,
Yes.
that every little bit of rotation that gets into the car is really, really difficult to control at that moment. And I mean, in fact, this whole thing started in the Rivazza turns where he went onto the gravel and thereby allowed Rizzi
Yes.
pass, and Kirchmeier came alongside, and this is where it really started. And well, obviously good to see him out of the car, and that means we can have a look at the results proper. Henri Hassid, with all the machinations and the tire choices and everything, his start from P8 into P1 pays off with a World Championship title. Andreas Rizzi and Ernst Kirchmeier we will see on the podium. And in the 488 it's Quinn Wiedlisbach, Fabrizio Fontana, and it's Maurizio Pittori who will also make it onto the podium.
Wow. What a dramatic conclusion to that world final race. That's for sure. But most important and great thing is Henri Hassid. He doesn't quite go to the top of the car, but he's had an extraordinarily dominant year, hasn't he? Taking not only the championship but now the world final race as well. Well done to Henri Hassid. And well done to Quinn Wiedlisbach also, the 488 world champion. There's Ernst Kirchmeier. All the celebrations down there in the assembly area. Wow, Nico.
Yeah, I mean, Kessel Racing, Ernst Kirchmeier and Henri Hassid just shows you that within the same team you can go for very different tire choices. I have to be honest, I would like to have a word with Ernst off the record and hear what he thinks. Maybe he felt like he was on trajectory to get even higher than P3.
Oh, yes.
There is Fabrizio Fontana coming out of the car. He is second. He is champion in Europe. He will be second for the world final race. And the winners, top prize for Quinn Wiedlisbach and this man, Henri Hassid. And there is Maurizio Pittori, top of the picture, emerging from his car, being congratulated. I mean, it is something very, very special when you have only this one race, and we've just seen what can go wrong. Tire choices, incidents, safety cars. There are so many things you can't control.
Different dynamics. You're absolutely right. And, you know, the drivers, the teams have an influence in terms of... steady on, Quinn. I think he might be happy with that, Nico.
Yes, and well, that hopefully propels him to taking part in the Ferrari Challenge 2025 in a 296 in a full campaign.
Very much hope so. Very much hope so.
And the same obviously applies to Fabrizio Fontana, who's been so dominant in the 488s this year, and his driver coach Stefano Gai, who's been part of the Ferrari Challenge, I dare say, almost since its inception.
Yes.
32 years ago. Not quite, but he is such a fixture of this series.
Henri Hassid, Andreas Rizzi, Ernst Kirchmeier, the top three. Ahead of Ray Acosta, Eric Marston, Bruce Cleveland, Mitchell Green, John Visca, Motohiko Isasaki, and Michael Martin then occupying the top 10 places. Henri Hassid, our world champion. P11 goes the way of Jan Bernier, our Ferrari of Seattle driver, before we get to the best of our 488 challenge. Drivers Quinn Wiedlisbach taking the honours ahead of Fabrizio Fontana and Maurizio Pittori. Manuela Gosner, P14, von Skeltermar, 15. Then it was Thomas Gosner, Osvaldo Gallo, and Alexander Nussbaumer. And they were ahead of Sven Sherman, Neil Sabranson, Lisa Clark, Tommy Lindroth, Alexei Komarov, James Weiland, Pino Frascaro, Christoph Herney, Faisal Shayer, and regrettably Yasutaka Shirasaki, John Dillon, Pierluigi Alessandri, Corinna Gosner out of the race. Nico, there is Quinn Wiedlisbach. Well, since he entered the Ferrari Challenge, Nico, he has steady on, friend. He has proven to be an extraordinary driver.
Absolutely, and I mean, he's one of those young drivers for whom this Ferrari challenge is really made for. Fabrizio Fontana is a great driver, not quite as young, but as enigmatic, as entertaining.
You said that.
Well, fair enough. But I mean, just the way that he has performed this year, and we hope that he will be part of the Challenger 296 next year.
Harry, congratulations, you are the champion, but I want to concentrate on your perfect start today.
Yes, I think it's impossible to do a best start. I was P8 and P1 at the first corner. I don't understand how I did this, but it was just crazy. I threw all cars go inside, and I was outside, and it was a good way.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well done, Henri Acide. Okay, so 2 podiums to come, of course. And let's take a look at a super slow-mo of the 488 winner interview to come, which will be with Quinn Wittlisbach.
Okay, Quinn, congratulations. Another important success for you here at Imola track. I want to discover more about your race, your strategy, and your feeling to be here.
So to be very honest, of course, everyone is looking forward to Finale Mondiale, the World Championship. But to me, I was just excited being in the car. For me, that's the most thing that counts. The love that I can experience through each corner, how I dance with the car, that's what stays in my heart forever. And each trophy, which I love, of course, which is amazing, is a great memory, but what stays in my heart and forever will be the experience with the car. And I want to say great thanks to my whole team. We were working together so well. It was so much love, and we put so much love into it, and all my people that support me. So much love. Thank you so much. I appreciate it endlessly, and can't wait for the next journey, the next chapter, next race. Thank you.
Well done, Quinn Wittlisbach. Tells a good story,
Yeah.
The Coppa Shell and 488 Finale Mondiale race underway. A number of drivers on slick tyres, a number of drivers starting the race on wet weather tyres, which would prove to be the right tyre choice. Well, time would tell. Riding on board with some of those drivers on slick tyres, you can see it was difficult for them to get the momentum, and von Skeltemer losing the back end of the car. Whether there was an assist or not, we couldn't tell from that camera angle, but you know, the likes of John Dillon and Ernst Kirkmeyer, who we know were on slick tyres, really struggling to find the grip that they needed in the early stages of the race. However, there would be a cusp point, and there was good avoidance there of the spinning Alexander Nussbaumer car, and there we can see Alexei Komarov finding the gravel, and Pierluigi Alessandri going for a daredevil move there, which potentially would not pay off in the end, and riding on board with John Dillon. Now, there was a fight going on in the 488s as well between race leader Quinn Wittlisbach and P2 driver Fabrizio Fontana. John Dillon then on slick tyres, finding the barriers. He was out of the car and perfectly okay, but that was the end of his charge in the Finale Mondiale race. So that brought out a safety car, but this brought out a red flag. It was a big moment indeed. But thankfully, all was okay with Yasutaka Shirasaki, as he's out of the car perfectly okay. That says something about these wonderful 296 Challenge race cars, and of course the 488 car before it. Henri Acide, he's the world champion for our Coppa Shell drivers, and Quinn Wittlisbach taking the honours in the 488 Challenge Finale Mondiale. So we will be Heading up to the podium in just a few moments' time to see Ernst Kirchmayr, Andreas Ritchie and Henri Acide. Michele Mambelli will be bringing the drivers out onto the podium momentarily. And there you can see lots of people here ready to enjoy the spectacular finale Mondiale day here at the Imola circuit, which of course not only contains the racing on track but also the much anticipated Ferrari show, which will be not only on track but in the city as well. Here comes Ernst Kirchmayr taking P3 for Kessel Racing. Andreas Ritchie for CDP DNC Racing takes P2. But on the top step of the podium, as he has been on so many occasions this year, here comes Henri Acide. And the national anthem will play out. So, podium presentation about to get underway. And of course, our fantastic Ferrari factory drivers forming part of the podium presentation team, including Miguel Molina, who I was delighted to have a chat with at the big gala dinner celebrations last night. Nicholas Nielsen, another one I chatted to last night on stage, makes the trophy presentation to Andreas Ritchie. And then Antonio Fuoco makes the race winners trophy award to Henri Acide. All the drivers and trophy presenters get together. Those are magnificent, magnificent trophies. So Henri Acide not only wins the world final race, but wins the champagne race as well. We of course have another podium to come. Ernst Kirchmayr then you can see taking P3 for Kessel Racing. For CDP DNC Racing then taking P2, Andreas Ritchie. But completing the Kessel Racing double bubble on that podium, Henri Acide, absolutely unbeatable. And what a start he had once again. So, podium to come for the 488 drivers, where we will see Maurizio Pittori, Fabrizio Fontana and Quinn Wiedlisbach. And Maurizio Pittori already on his way to the podium. Fabrizio Fontana, who you may have noticed is indeed the champion this year. There are the T-shirts to prove it. And Quinn Wiedlisbach takes another victory, and he becomes the world champion for the 488 Challenge drivers, and the national anthem will play out for him. With the anthem playing out, Time now for the trophies to be presented. We have our full gamut of Ferrari factory drivers here on trophy presentation duties. Miguel Molina then makes the trophy presentation to Maurizio Pittori for P3. Up next, it will be Niklas Nielsen, who does P2 for Fabrizio Fontana. That trophy awarded. And Antonio Fuoco, therefore, I believe, will be responsible for making the trophy presentation to our winner, Quinn Wiedlisbach. Lucio Vigani from Pirelli makes the Pirelli award to Quinn Wiedlisbach also. And the podium is complete. Everyone gets together on the podium then for the photographs. And is it going to be Quinn Wiedlisbach that wins the champagne race? No, I think it was the champion Fabrizio Fontana. So the celebrations then on the podium for the Finale Mondiale race. Taking P3, Maurizio Pittori. Taking P2, Fabrizio Fontana. But winning the Finale Mondiale race, CDP DNC racing driver Quinn Wiedlisbach. So that's it, Finale Mondiale done for Coppa Shell and 488 drivers. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.